Everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Tactical Tuesdays. Yes, today is Thursday, January 22nd, but I have seen enough chatter. I've heard enough feedback from tax professionals in our ecosystem that are already interviewing clients, and they're seeing one big red flag. And what is that? Something as simple as Trump accounts, not from a technical standpoint, but from a practice management standpoint, because Trump accounts are one of those things that sound simple, but until you realize you may be explaining them 15 or 20 minutes at a time over and over again during tax season. And that real risk isn't here, is just not compliance, right? The risk is your time. So, real quick, what are Trump accounts? They were created under the One Big Beautiful Bill Act starting in 2026. Parents can open a Trump account for a child under age 18 or who is a U.S. citizen with a Social Security number. So families can contribute up to $5,000 per year. And for children born between 2025 and 2028, there's a one-time government contribution, but only if an election is made. That is the key point for tax professionals. Obviously, the Dell Foundation, I think, said they're going to donate $5-6 billion as well. But the reality is, the most important thing for us as tax professionals is these accounts are optional, but they require an affirmative election using Form 4547. So whether you like it or not, clients are going to ask, or they're going to hear it on TikTok, or they're going to see some meme on social media, or they're going to read a CNBC article, and then you're going to have this whole discussion that blows up your tax appointments and perhaps even your tax season. So this is the problem. Uh, Trump accounts don't apply to every client. I have been talking about segmenting your client database for years now. With ClientHub, we have tags. We make it super simple to do. At some point, we're going to get Max to proactively kind of figure out segments for you. But until then, you need to start looking at your client database and figuring out, who should I be communicating to, or who should I be creating proactive outreach for? So I'm not spending 15 minutes every single appointment or every third appointment adding hours of non-billable. Perhaps you'll figure out a way to bill it, but you don't want to blow up your tax season, right? So the goal here is not to explain Trump accounts better. It's the goal is stop explaining Trump accounts live during a tax appointment. You don't want to be wasting perhaps time on Trump accounts when you could be doing more proactive tax advisory type work. So I always say what the best use case here is to foam the runway. So clients should learn about Trump accounts before their appointment. They should make a decision before your meetings, okay? You should authorize before meetings. And I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways you could use ClientHub, Max, CountingWorks Pro's platform to do that. We already talked about segmenting. I would say clients with dependents under 18 might be a tag. Clients with children born between 2025 and 2028, and then everyone else, they're just not going to have that tag, okay? So what we want to do is we want to pre-educate. We want to pre-educate my client base about Trump accounts, and then hopefully have some call to action or some sort of authorization, whether that be an e-sign, whether that be an intake form, whether that be a reply to a message, some sort of affirmative action after you've educated your clients to do that. So I'm going to show you a bunch of different ways. If you are a current CountingWorks Pro subscriber, we already wrote about this. We have a blog article in queue going out any day now. It's going to educate your clients all about Trump accounts. If you want to write your own, ask Max to do it. I pre-populated real quick a conversation here. Let's just go back up here. I told Max, hey, I want to do a thought leadership article about Trump accounts. It ripped out this real quick, meta description, meta title. You could publish this on your blog and be set, right? And start sharing that. At least you've kind of started foaming the runway. You're educating. Hey, if you wanted to create this as an outbound message, just ask Max to do it. Max is writing about it, what's important, what is the introduction. Perhaps here is a call to action that says, hey, just reply to this message, whether, yes, set it up for me. No, I want to opt out, right? Or I want to talk about it further, okay? So I'm going to go over a bunch of different ways to utilize the CountingWorks Pro platform to do this. So first of all, let's just go super simple. If I want to send a message to all my clients, I go to clients in the ClientHub, I hit message clients, I can send 2 tags. So if you have segmented your clients, I can send it to all clients if I want. I can make it a ClientHub message, or I can make it a non-secure marketing email. But if I had written that in Max, I could cut and paste that here, and the call to action could be to reply to me. This would be a super simple way to handle this in one format, and then make the email educational. Kind of what is it? What is the course of action? And perhaps 50% of your clients will be handled that way. If you want to be more proactive and have some sort of e-sign or actual written authorization, there's three ways to do that. Actually, two ways to do that. And then the third way would be a digital footprint, which would be in an intake form. So let's talk about some different options here. So option A is you can just go into forms, create an e-sign. If you had Max write me a document, or you could create that document from scratch, but I could cut and paste this. If I had written it and I had a PDF already of an authorization form, I could just drag that over and I could now send out to my group of clients e-signs to authorize me. And in that, I would make it an educational document, talk about Trump accounts, same options that I did in Max. But this is another way to do this at scale ahead of the appointments, right? So that is option A. Option B is I could go into a playbook. So if you're a VIP, Grow, Premier, Premier Plus, you'll have access to the workflow playbooks. The engagement letter could actually be set up to do the same kind of use case. So I could come in here, I could set a tag to this specific playbook, and we'll call this the Trump authorization form. I could create it a template, and I could now have sent that out to a group of clients specifically authorizing Trump. So educating them, what is it about? They have the ability to e-sign. I can make both primary and spouse sign it. I can make this super simple. This is another way to do it. So this is just an engagement letter. I did not create a template, but if you had a template here, it would automatically have loaded already. But I would just come in here and just tell it, hey, I want to version this to be educational about Trump accounts. Tell the client, hey, this year there's new opportunities. If you have children under the age of 18, kind of explain the different options. Do you talk about time value of money, perhaps? Talk about the amount of money they can put in, what the government can put in. And then the call to action is authorize this. If you authorize me as your tax professional to set up this through the tax appointment, I will go ahead and do that when I file your tax return. So let's just update this real quick. We'll let this generate the content. And this is now a way that if I had tagged that group, I could now send this out as almost just like an engagement letter, but an engagement letter, just think of it as an authorization letter for this specific use case. So this is just another super simple way to do this. I could do this at scale. And again, the whole idea here is you want to be educational, you want to be neutral, you want it short enough that your clients will actually read it. And then from here, you have all the digital footprint, right? And then here it is, education update on the Trump accounts. What are they? You can come in here and edit this if you didn't like it. This is basically how I would create it. I hit apply changes, and now I have this ready to send out. I can then map out, do I just want one signer? Do I want multiple signers? That kind of stuff. So you can do that here. I'm just going to throw in, here's the signers. This isn't the right area, but whatever, you get the idea. So this is another option. And then you can do this via email or through the ClientHub, everything branded to you. So if you're familiar with the engagement letters, you'll know how to do this already. The next option is to do an intake form. Same process. So I have not created in settings, I have not created a template for this one yet. But if I had, I could choose that. But let's just say I'm going through here. I'm going to go ahead and hit next. And in here, I could create an intake form that says and ask some questions, right? So right now I'm just generating a generic intake form, and I could version this a little bit. But I could say, hey, do you have children under age 18 with a box, checkbox? Were any of the children born between 2025 and 2028? Would you like, and then I could even add some text here, would you like to elect a Trump account for your child? And so I can do this, let's just, hey, I want to add a section to this intake form that's all about Trump accounts. I want to have some different questions that they would say yes, no, and kind of go through. I want to like a little educational content if possible, but do you have children under the age of 18? Were any of the children born between 2025 and 2028? Would you like us to elect a Trump account for your account? And then clients can choose yes, proceed, no decline, or I want to discuss it more during our appointment. Okay. Um, Super simple. And this could be our intake forms are designed like questionnaires or like census data. Super simple. I don't think we need to wait for this whole thing, but I think you get the idea. The goal here is you want to pre-authorize, right? So if the client says yes to any of these different ways, so let's just go here, section 8. I've added the Trump account. So you get the idea of how this works. Um, so the idea is that we want the client to say yes or no. And if they've done this, you no longer have to spend 15, 20 minutes during the appointment. Okay. If you wanted to create like an internal playbook or like instructions for your clients on how to do this, you can go into Ask Max and just say, hey, Max, how would you handle Trump accounts based on the way I work? So let's say you do things differently than kind of what I'm showing you now. It could come up and brainstorm some different ideas too. So feel free to use Max to ask it questions. So, Trump accounts is just one example of how you can use AI and technology and automation to save you a tremendous amount of time, specifically during this tax season. So every year there's something new, right? New credits, new elections, new planning opportunities. So firms that rely on live explanations fall behind. That's what this proactive education is so important. That's why we blog for our clients. That's why we send out newsletters. That's why we post on social media to be proactive so that when the client comes in, they're already preconditioned to know, hey, let's talk about this. Okay. So Max handles your education, ClientHub handles the decisions, and your firm handles the execution. So it makes this super easy. And I understand Trump accounts aren't complicated, but explaining them 100 times during tax season is. So this is how you protect your calendar. I just gave you a bunch of different use cases. Hopefully you'll kind of brainstorm what works for you. I just wanted to show you different ways that I would approach this. And that is our Tactical Tuesday on a Thursday. I know tax season is just starting for many of you. It's going to be a challenging one, I think, but also a very rewarding one. So good luck. And we'll continue to expand our product. If you have any questions about any of the things we showed you, feel free to ask our help desk at help@countingworkspro.com. If you have not figured out how to use some of these tools, just feel free to reach out. Our staff will gladly do some training for you. But hopefully we'll hear from you. Thank you again for being a subscriber.